Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We are bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. Thanks for listening on the show. We're glad you're here for today. I am Cesar Delgado. I am your host of today's program. Today is Report Day of the World Supply and Demand for today from the USDA. This report is a big one of today. Yesterday was the remembrance of Jimmy Carter. The markets was closed because of the president, Jimmy Carter. We were talking about the WASDE for today from the USDA with John Zanke from Risk Management in Indiana. We will have a conversation about the report from the USDA and taking a look for the Brazilian crop in Mato Grosso for right now. Otherwise, we were talking about that with John Zanke from Risk Management. This is your rural news sponsored by AgriGold. The World Supply and Demand Report is coming from the Department of Agriculture. This report will be important for the markets. South America is getting better with their crop. The Illinois Chemical and Fertilizer Association is going to have their convention in Peoria, Illinois at the Peoria Civic Center. They are having training for DICABA and 4-2D. The convention will be held on January 21st–23rd at the Peoria Civic Center. Let's look for your rural news for the agricultural industry. This is the world supply and demand for today from the USDA. The corn estimate is 154 bushel per acre from the USDA estimate. Let's take a look for beans, or 380 bushel per acre for the stock. The crop production in the United States, it's from the Department of Agriculture. The corn production is 179.3 bushel per acre. The beans production is 57 bushel. This is your commodity markets for this morning. Corn futures is up at 3 to 5 cents on the quarter. Soybean futures is up at 5 to 4 cents. Wheat futures is up at 5 to 10 cents at the half. Let's take a look for the livestock markets. Cattle is up at 9 to 5 cents. Feeder cattle is up at 3 to 6 on the quarter. Lean hogs are up at 5 to 10 cents. Crude oil is up at 9 to 4 cents per barrel. Dow Jones is up at 5 points. We were talking about the WASDE for today from the USDA with John Zanke from Risk Management in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hi, John. Welcome to the show. We're glad you're here for today with us.
Great to be here.
Let's discuss about the WASDE for today from the Department of Agriculture. Could you tell us what's going on with the numbers in the report?
Well, it was a pretty surprising report. These are some really shocking numbers almost, led by corn yield going down 3.8 bushels per acre. That took production down 276 million. Took the ending carryout down by 198 million. And if you look back to August, that's 500 million less on the ending carryout than what we were seeing the USDA project back then. Soybean yield down a bushel. That's a big cut from November to January historically. Down to 50.7, production down 95 million. There was no changes in demand, so that took the carryout down to 380 million. That's down 90 million. So some pretty major adjustments there, and that led to sharply higher prices today.
What is the trends in the crop production of the U.S.?
Excuse me, could you repeat that question, please?
What is the trends for the crop production?
The trend yield, if that was your question, was up there close to where the USDA previously was on corn, up in that 181, 182. So another year below trend after finally getting there or close to it last year. Soybean trend is about at least 2 bushels higher than this 50.7. So this marks the 8th year in a row where we have not set a new record yield in soybeans. So the rough ending to August and the first 2 or 3 weeks of September really took a toll on soybeans again, which is becoming more common than not.
John, what does means that the Brazilian crop in the report for today?
Well, I think that, as bullish as these bean numbers were today, they're soon to be overshadowed by what goes on with this Brazilian crop and Argentina crop. We have had a little support coming from the weather here the last 2 or 3 weeks. We have seen Argentina drying out, southern Brazil, Rio Grande do Sul, Paraná, both of those states on the dry side. Balance of Brazil looking really good. We are starting to see the forecast increase those chances for rain in Argentina and southern Brazil, and a fairly decent chance. If we come in here Sunday and we're seeing more water put into those forecasts, we're setting up a scenario, Cesar, where we could add 650 to 700 million bushels of soybeans to the South American crop over and above what they just produced this past season. That could end up smothering our exports late summer into the fall period, when typically we see our largest export potential. So I'm really worried about what's going on down there and its eventual price impact.
Do you have some concerns about the beans production in Paraná?
Again, right now, being on the southern edges of Paraná and Rio Grande do Sul, it's still fairly early in their growing season. They haven't lost a bushel of production due to the dry weather, but we are seeing some pretty hot temperatures. We want to see those rains get in there fairly soon if, we expect those states to have something close to a record yield. Right now, I would say those are the only 2 states that are in danger of not seeing very good yields. So we'll see how that develops. But and then, of course, to the south, Argentina, very much up in the air. They've just finished up planting their latest plantings of corn and soybeans.
Can you tell us why is that the Brazilian currency are down for right now?
Well, this currency thing is just it's really hurting us, Cesar. The dollar surged again today. It's up to dollar index up to 109, something at 40. We're at roughly 2.5-year highs. The Brazilian real is just really plummeted against the dollar here in the last several months, last 2 years, really. So the Brazilian farmer really loved what he saw from our reports today. Same thing for the Argentines. So I suspect we'll see some selling from them. And if the rains continue and their crop continues in toward that 170 million ton mark, it's going to be a really good year for the Brazilian farmer.
Or we could see that there is affected by net export.
Oh, net exports or exports. We won't see a major impact from that. They're going to ship a huge amount of soybeans, but they could, China's demand is kind of flatlined here in the last 3 or 4 years. So our exports will fall off sharply as they always do. Brazil's will go up sharply. What I really worry about is if they produce an extra 650 to 700 million bushels in South America, that I don't see the world being able to chew up, even at sharply lower prices, over half of that amount. So I could see 300 million bushels being added to our ending carryout. But that would be for the ending carryout of 2025/26. If we have a really good crop here, we see record yields. I do think our plantings will be down for soybeans. We still could be looking at a carryout of over 600 million bushels, which would set us up for a situation where futures could move down toward that $9 area, such as we saw in 2018, 2019, early or in 2020 as well.
Do you have any final thoughts on this afternoon's markets?
Well, I thought it was just really a spectacular day. The trade was expecting a friendly report that worried me just a little bit, in that we could see a bearish surprise, but we didn't come close to seeing a bearish surprise in anything. So just an outstanding day. I think if you come in here on Sunday evening and we're backing off moisture levels for potential for Argentina and Brazil, I think the March corn futures could move toward that 480 area. I'm not interested really at this point in forward pricing soybeans under the 450 forward pricing new crop corn under the 450 area versus the Ds. I do think we'll increase acres. I think that acreage increase could be pretty sharp, especially if we run corn prices up versus beans even more in the coming weeks, and I expect that will happen. So soybeans, again, worried about that South American crop, worried about how quickly our exports will go away. At the same time, Brazil's harvest is getting off to a slow start due to the late planting and also the rains that they're currently seeing. So a slow harvest means a slow start to that second crop, corn planting, that safrinha crop. So again, maybe some additional bullish news for corn here in the coming weeks due to that. But overall, I think we've set ourselves up here for some much better hedging opportunities than what we were looking at just a few hours ago, Cesar.
Is there anything else that would like to talk about the premium risk for right now?
Well, I think we have to. I think we have to accept that the next few months and maybe the next few years are going to be rocky when it comes to the political type situation, trade war potentially. The administration, the incoming administration, is not going to be overly friendly to biofuels, especially soy diesel, given that it's got a large subsidy. So I think we better be prepared for that. We better look for good opportunities to get hedged, especially if we see some profitable opportunities to get hedged, because it's going to be a rocky. There's going to be some rocky stretches in here where things look good on Friday and it's going away on Monday morning. So we just need to be prepared for that.
Thanks, John. We enjoyed our conversation for this afternoon.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Cesar. I appreciate it, and I enjoyed it.
This is John Zanke from Risk Management on Back Roads of Illinois. This is your commodity markets for this afternoon, sponsored by Kyle Bumstead. He's your commodity markets for Allendale Incorporated. March corn is up at 5 to 10 cents at 4.70. January beans are up at 10.25. Chicago wheat is down to 8 to 5 cents at 5.50. Let's take a look for the livestock markets. Cattle is up at 195, 475. Feeder cattle is up at 267, 400. Lean hog is up at 88, 675. Thanks to John Zanke from Risk Management. You can listen to this show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. This has been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. You have a great weekend.